here it's good morning. I'm assuming for both of you it's good afternoon or almost good evening. But Ivor, how is your day going aside from talking about yourself a lot and doing interviews?
Well, it's going great. I'm just at home and just kind of feeling relaxed and chilled and preparing for the big tour.
Exactly. And Sylvain, how long did you have this tour planned for? We, the fans, only found out about it about like 2 months or so ago, but I'd have to imagine there's months and months of planning.
I think I got the notice of it. I remember it quite clearly because I was sitting in London with a friend of mine, and I was just like browsing on my phone, and I got the email, and I was like, "Oh my goodness!" Because it was before the European tour had happened, and I was just thinking, "They're inviting me along on this tour as well. They don't even know if like I'm an axe murderer or anything." So I think it turned out pretty good in the end. And that was in
Luckily,
August.
you weren't.
Well, not So, no, I'm definitely
Sure.
so yeah, that was in August. I'm assuming that it's been in the works quite a bit before that as well. So you know how these things are, they're planned like a long time in advance. So yeah.
Sure. How did you first connect with Ivor?
Well, actually, that was because of this tour. I was asked by her management to join. We're on the same label now, and we also have the same booking agent in Europe. So I think that there was just like connections being made. I believe that my booking agent Alex also have been in touch there. So, but yeah, it was basically through the people that are working around us, and I'm so grateful for that. So yeah.
Got it. Now, Ivor, how did you first become familiar with Sylvain?
Yeah, it's the same thing for me. It was through this tour and our label and our partners who we work with introduced me to Sylvain's music, and I was I was so amazed. I loved every note that she played and sang. So I was very excited to get her to join us on the European tour that we did together. It was um, a beautiful experience to meet
Mhm.
her and to hear her music. And I'm so thrilled that she's coming with us on the American tour as well.
So a follow-up question to that, Ivor. Uh, Sometimes when you're performing, it's a stadium here. Sometimes it's an award show there. In other words, you play very different sizes and sorts of venues all the time. And these are more clubs. So these are more intimate performances for you in the States and Canada. What sort of set list do you have to do? Do you have to go, okay, this is for the US market? Or do you go, this is what I feel like doing?
Um, Good question. Well, I think that when you go on a tour, you always try to think of a good set list for this specific tour that
Mhm.
kind of includes some of your newer material, but I also like to kind of braid in, some of my older material as well. And then it's for
Mhm.
me, the main thing is to make a good flow out of a set list. And it doesn't matter if you play in a small club or whether you play a big stadium. It's just mainly that's the main part for me, to just to have a good flow in a set list. But of course, sometimes some venues kind of call for certain songs that I don't normally play, and then I'll just shove it in there, like, let's do this one tonight. So I like to keep it quite dynamic and open, also to kind of change it around if it feels right. So, but it's important to do what you feel is right, and I think that's the main thing that I try to do.
So if you feel like playing 2 hours of instrumentally video game music, you'll do that? Is that what I'm
Well,
hearing?
I mean, I guess I can, but well, then it wouldn't be much space for the other songs. So I try to keep a good balance, and I like to do some of the stuff that I've done for video games and for film scores, but of course, then there are also all the albums that I've
Sure.
released. So it's always a puzzle to make a set list, I think.
And Sylvain, any idea which songs you'll be performing on this upcoming run? You don't have to spoil what the set list might be, but of course, it's a different scenario when you're playing for new fans and also playing in cities that you're not playing in all the time.
And also playing for the first time ever on my own in North
Yeah.
America. So that's gonna be interesting to see how the North American crowd reacts to that, because they were very kindly enthusiastic when I brought my band over. Now it's just little old me, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's like Ivo said, basically, it's going to be a little bit of a mix, of stuff. And for me, it will be also songs that I do play with my band, but that I've reworked into like to work in a solo format. So it's songs that people will, if they know my music, recognize, but just in kind of a new fashion. And of course, with some weight on some of the new stuff. So it's going to be an eclectic mix, I would say.
Now, when you say solo, do you mean solo with pre-recorded tracks or solo acoustic?
It's not acoustic because I am bringing my electric guitar, because I do have a love for being able to tap into those kind of sonic options that I get when I'm using my Pod Cortex with my semi hollow body guitar. So it's definitely
Mm-hmm.
going to be, it's a range though, from like just voice to voice and guitar to voice and recorded tracks indeed as well. But it's not the same as the same kind of recorded tracks as it would be with the band. It's still like a new
Right.
series, all of it. Yeah.
So, Sylvain, with this exciting tour that's happening in a couple of weeks, you do the tour and you just done the great European dates with EIVØR. Do you take a break after the US tour, or do you just keep working at it and you know what the next couple of months after that look like?
A break? What is that? Vacation? Weekends? What is that? Actually,
Noted.
I have planned directly after the tour. I will stay in London for a few days as a sort of vacation, which is ridiculous because I'm going to be jet lagged and completely fucked up. But that's the plan anyways. And then after that, actually, I will spend the next few months after that purely working on my next album. So it will go from being the extrovert touring into introvert creation mode. So this year is actually fully planned out. I'm already talking to my booking agent about 2026 at this point. So yeah, breaks? What? What is that?
Wow, that's a lot of output. Ivor, same thing for you. Do you know what life is like after you conquer the US and Canada?
Um, well, it's kind of the same as Sylvain is explaining. Actually, after my US tour, I will go on a European tour actually with
Mm-hmm.
Heilung. And then after that, I'm also planning to dive back into some songwriting because I'm working on an album. And so it's gonna be, but next this year will be full of touring. I also have a tour later in the year, so in Europe, and so and already a lot of dates are coming up for 2026. So busy times, but I like it that way.
Yes.
I enjoy that.
And the last time I had the pleasure of interviewing you, Ivar, I asked, what you like to do when you're not busy. And you mentioned a lot of walks, a lot of nature-oriented things when time permits. Do you have any time at all built into that this U.S. tour for that? Like, for example, do you know that between 1 o'clock and 2:30 p.m. you can walk those 6 miles, or do you not get to do any of that on the road because work is work?
I think it's typical. I mean, I've been touring for 20 years and it's the same thing every time. You have all these plans on what you're gonna do in the free time. You're like, I'm gonna bring my recording gear. I'm gonna do this and that every day. And then when you're on tour, you just go into the flow and you have to, or for me at least, I kind of just like to take one day at a time and see what happens. Sometimes you have some time to walk around and see things, and other days you just feel like, just being very lazy. So you
Mhm.
just, yeah, I don't know. What you think, Sylvain? Isn't it like that?
I always leave. Every time I leave with like a list, you can't see a list on my phone with like things I'm supposed to be doing on the tour to keep like self productive. And
Mhm.
every time I come back and I've removed like one item off that list, bringing books to read, or as you said, like bringing stuff gear to record, and it's just, I don't know what. It's hard to explain that to people that haven't been in that bubble. But it's just, even if you're not necessarily busy technically doing something, it's just really hard to do stuff that's not related to that tour bubble. So it's so as you said, Ivo, some days like you're going out, you're doing stuff, and other days you just want to sleep until 2 and like get up and go into the venue sound check and go back to sleep again. It's like it's a weird life. Not probably the healthiest life ever, or the most productive life, but it is what it is, and it's hard to combine with other stuff, I have to say. So.
Yeah, I
Wow.
agree.
Well,
I really agree.
the follow-up to that, Sylvain, before I ask both of you the last question is, do you have your list of things that you're hoping to try? For example, do you say, okay, New York pizza here, Philadelphia cheesesteak there? Are you one of those people touring?
100%. Especially when we're talking about food items, that's a big one. Although for me it's a little, well, not different, but I'm a vegan vegetarian, so I can't just like go crazy with everything. But still, yeah, I definitely do try to write long lists of places and or things I would like to see. But as we just said, like when we then get into it, if we actually end up going or doing those things is another story. But definitely have a few things on my list, and having been in North America a couple of times already, there's some things that I'm like, oh yeah, that'd be cool to revisit, or we didn't do that
Mhm.
last time. So hopefully some things on the list will get checked this time.
Cool. Well, the last question for both of you, Ivor, you first. What's the last concert that you went to for fun?
Oh, wow. What's the last concert? Oh my God, it's such a long time since I've been to a concert. But I think actually the one that comes to mind is PJ Harvey. I went to see her in Copenhagen, but it must be like, yeah, it was last year, beginning of last year, I think. But then I haven't had much time to go to shows because I've played so many shows myself. But I went to see PJ Harvey and it was mind blowing.
Was that at Vega?
Yes,
That's
I
the
think
only
so.
venue I know in Copenhagen. It just happened, I guess that one. It was at Vega.
That was a good and safe guess. It's a
Yeah,
good venue.
everything I know about Copenhagen music is because of Tim Christensen. But anyway, now I know PJ Harvey. Sylvain, for you, do you remember what your last concert was for fun?
Yeah, actually, I did, like, after getting off our tour in October last year, I went to two different shows. One was actually supposed to be work because I do also work for Live Nation here in Norway, but it turned out to be for fun because I, I was actually sick that day, so I went for fun. And that show was Sigur Rós playing here
Oh,
in Oslo with the orchestra, which was absolutely incredible. I miss them every time they come to Oslo for whatever reason. One of those things where I'm not in the right place at the right time. And before that, a few weeks before that, it was Max Richter, which is a modern day minimalist composer that played in the Opera House here in Oslo, which was absolutely mind blowing. It was one of the best shows I've seen, like, period. So it was really, really cool.
Wow. So what I've learned is you both have very busy 2025s and 2026s. You both have fantastic musical taste when you're not working. And we just have to keep waiting to see what's coming next from both of you. That's what I'm hearing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, fair enough. So thank you for your time and looking forward to your show in Brooklyn. Keep up all the greatness.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Paltrocast.